So what I'm going to do, I'm going to edit this photo. Basically, this is to show how I would edit a photo if I'm making it monochrome. For the most part, I use Lightroom, the Adobe Lightroom, and yeah, so I kind of my workflow. Basically, I put all the photos in there, I cull through them, decide which ones are in colour and which ones are black and white. And today, I'm going to go through how I edit a photo in, like, basically from colour into monochrome or black and white. So here we go. So now normally I've got a bunch of presets here, but I'm not going to use these today. I want to sort of do this from scratch. We've got this lovely photo here of Kelly. This photo was taken during a sort of bridal show at Aurora Bride in North Cheam. So right, let's get cracking. So here we go. I'm going to change the basic canvas size to 8x10, and then I'm going to crop in. In fact, I might change it a little bit more. I might go for 5x7 because it's a bit longer, and I can sort of get a bit more in the picture there. And then I'm going to try and straighten things a little bit. If you can hear that noise, that sounds like it's taking off. That's my computer. Right, so there we go. We've got our image cropped. It's taken on a Fujifilm GFX 50R, so it's a medium format sensor. If I zoom in, you can see how much detail there is there. See that one? Yeah, there we go. So what we're going to do, I'm going to change this to black and white, and then we're going to play around with the exposure and contrast. So I'm going to make it a little bit darker, bring contrast up a bit. Now the highlights are getting a bit overblown on the arm here, so I'm going to bring down the highlights a little bit and bring out the shadows a bit as well. And then maybe bring the white up a little bit. I think that's good. And then we'll bring the black down too. So there we go. We've got a bit more of a defined monochrome image there. What I'll do now is I'll bring down the texture a little bit, so it basically smooths out the skin tones a little bit, as does clarity. So I'll bring down the clarity a little bit, -4, -10, around there. Yeah, let's go for that, -8. And if we zoom in a little bit, wait for the detail to load, there we go. That looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. Alright, so you've got your tone curve here, so you can bring out your shadows and your shadows and your highlights a little bit more too. So try and make this like an S shape usually. So I'll put one at the top and one at the bottom. This one's the shadow side, so the dark side a little bit. Okay, and then we've got our black and white mix. Now usually I use the preset in the camera with the red filter. Naturally I'm not doing that today because I'm using just Lightroom. I'm going to avoid using any presets. I might do another video on those later, but for the time being I'm going to try and emulate the presets using the black and white mix here. So first thing I usually do is bring up the red a little bit. You'll notice a slight change in the lips there. So if I zoom in again, if I bring this up to here, once my computer wakes up a little bit, yeah, you can see it's a little bit brighter. I think that's probably a bit too much, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I'm quite happy with that. And then I'm going to bring the orange up a little bit as well. Okay, you notice that on Kelly's back there, it's slightly brighter, so that's good enough. Other than that, I'll probably leave all these the same because it's quite a sort of monochrome image anyway. But I mean, I could bring down the greens and you might see the stems go a little bit darker, yeah, but that's not important. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that, how it is. If I want to bring in a bit of warmth to the colour, to the picture, I can play around with the split toning here. Generally what I do, I set the highlights to like a yellow and give them a saturation of about 5. And then I'll do the same with the shadows. Try and go for like an orange or kind of like a red, somewhere in between there, and set that to about 5 or 7. Yeah, and this is probably a bit too much there, so if I bring that down to 5. And then if you do this, like if you swing the balance one way or the other, it has quite a subtle effect there. I'd say that's too red, so I'd probably swing more to the yellow. You might not be seeing that there, but you can switch this on and you can see the subtle difference. So if you switch it off, yeah, you can see the subtle difference there. Switch it back on. There you go. It's got a nice sort of sepia tone to it. Now with sharpening, I tend to try and avoid it too much, but I bring this down to about here, about 15, and then I'll bring the detail up a little bit. There we go, so it doesn't look too bad. I don't need to do any noise reduction here. This was shot at ISO 320, so that's perfectly fine as it is. And I think that's about it. If I wanted to, well, again, this is down to personal preference. You can have a post-crop vignette in here. It might work here actually, because the focus is very much on Kelly, who's in the centre of the frame. You've got the grain option as well. Sometimes I use this. I tend to use this more for the noisier pictures. You know, if I'm shooting up to ISO 3200, but I don't really like too much noise on my pictures, so I'll bring that down back to 0. And that's about it really. You can, there's other things I've done in the past. Maybe, I suppose Kelly's hair is a bit dark here, because on this side there was the key light, so that was what was lighting Kelly. And here, obviously it's a bit darker, so what we do, bring that down, let's go for exposure tool, bring that down to there, and contrast is what I use to sort of bring out highlights a little bit. Bring the contrast down and add the shadows up a bit, and hopefully we might see a bit of difference here. There we go. So it brings out a little bit more detail in the hair here. So I mean, you can go to extremes, but it's basically about trying to be as subtle as you can. You can get some people that go crazy, so if I did that, yeah, I'm not going to do that, no, am I? I'll bring that right down. And that's about it really. If you have any questions, do get in touch, leave a comment, and yeah, thanks for listening.